Welcome to Discuss With Us podcast, where we are unpacking the world through a Christian lens. I am your host, Darcy Durkowski, along with my husband, Brian, and our intention is to pose topics, trending and otherwise, and unpack them with the help of some research, insights from our different backgrounds, and even some listener input in a way that is thought-provoking and entertaining. So get comfortable, grab your favorite beverage, and discuss with us.
Welcome back to another episode of Discuss With Us.
Season 2.
Yeah, I guess that's what that is, yeah. It's been a couple weeks.
Yes.
That was nice.
It was nice.
It's almost hard coming back.
No, I was ready to come back.
Me too. I did miss it.
Yeah, I missed it. We just kind of knew we were losing. I was losing track of the schedule a little bit with the summer, and then
losing track of everything.
Yeah, we'll talk about that.
Yeah,
I think.
I think that's the point here.
Yeah. But also with staring down the barrel of starting school back and trying to get our life back into a routine,
Yes.
it was like, okay, we have got to take a little break from this so
Amen.
that we can be better at it.
So, how you been?
Good. We just came back from the lake for Labor Day weekend, and it was a really good lake trip.
No, it was. Yeah, this one
It was different than normal.
Yeah, we didn't have. Normally, it's like a whole
Caravan.
crew clan that comes, and this time it was much more just us and your brother.
Yeah.
That was fun, and the boys, obviously.
Yeah. And Lauren, don't leave Lauren out.
Well, yeah. Package
Yeah.
deal there.
No. So, yeah, it was really nice. It was very relaxing, and we've talked before about how, like, what camping does for us is that we can very easily get sucked into doing so much around our place that it is like taking a step back from that is so refreshing, and then you actually come back to your house and you're like, I love this place.
Yeah, and that's kind of going to keep us where we're at today. So the first one we wanted to come back with is you had a better working title than me. I just called it time management.
Well, yeah, so on time management, for
time
us,
management, that makes it a lot
well, better. There's a colon there.
Okay. Oh, in case you couldn't see it.
Doing more with less, because that's where we're at in our lives.
Yes, probably most of us out there feel that way.
But what we're going to talk about and the framework with which we are going to talk about it, I think would also be relevant if you were in a different scenario where you suddenly have more time, you're trying to figure out what to do with it.
Tell us your secrets.
Yeah. Okay, so tell us, Brian, a little about how this topic came around.
Yeah, first off, this is really funny, as you'll find out at the end, because I don't know where we're going after this. Darcy, during our time off, spent a lot of time working up the entire next, 20 episodes or so that I think
the
she
whole
wants
next
to do.
season.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and very quickly I came home last week and was like, hey, my CEO talked about this. I think this would be a good one. And so I just derailed everything. But we have
leave some play in the schedule for that.
Thankfully. We have a new CEO at work, and he came to our monthly meeting at the end of last month.
Mm-hmm.
And he was taking some questions and answers, and pretty young guy. I'd gauge him probably late 40s, early 50s, somewhere in there, and
we're probably not in danger of him listening to this episode.
I don't
being
think so. But
offended.
he has 6 kids, and they're all in the teenage, early college years. Mm-hmm. And then he was previously a CEO at another company, and now he's CEO at ours. And so obviously one of the questions people asked him was, how do you do all of this? Because he's
super high functioning.
Young,
how do you do it?
Young, vibrant guy with seemingly a great family life at home. He's very in shape. You can tell he works out and stuff. And so he just kind of really bluntly was like, I write down. I'm a huge believer in writing down my schedule. And I keep up with it. I update it. He's like, I get input from my wife, my kids, everyone has an input on my schedule. Mm-hmm. And I kind of revisit it. I don't know if he said he does it every month, 3, 6, whatever it is. But he said he's very regimented by that schedule. If his kids need more time, he plays with the schedule, figures that out. And so anyways, I was sitting in the audience and I was just like, man, I don't do any of that. And I feel like I have less time than this guy does. I only have 3 kids. He has like 5 or 6. I can't even remember, but I was like, I need to do that. So then I came home and I was excited. And I was like, Darcy, I got the fix for everything we've got going wrong. We just need to write out a schedule. And it's done.
No, but you went into detail about
Yeah.
some of the things he was sharing about, like how he maps out his time and stuff. And so,
Yes.
you, I think, have been,
So I just copied it.
yeah, you have been thinking about that ever since.
Yes. So that was where we got with this. And we probably, like most young parents out there, feel like time is always the enemy. And that was one of the biggest things he said. You know, you can have all the money in the world, all the power and everything, but time is the ultimate resource that
Yes.
you are constantly losing.
Mm-hmm.
So he was like, make the most of that time. And that was where we kind of got with this. So we went a couple different directions here. We actually did talk about this before we just hit record. So
Shocking, I know.
Yeah, of course.
But, well,
I wrote an entire schedule out, and I think Darcy just wrote a bunch of notes out to the side, and we'll see. I've got 3 pages. She's got like half a page.
Hey, listen, the different ways with which we approach how
It's
we
a little
approach
bit
these.
of personality difference here if you haven't heard that episode.
And I think people appreciate it. Thank you very much. But yeah, so when Brian came home and was talking about this and talking about, reevaluating regularly, one of the things that it made me think of is that I do this with work pretty regularly.
Yeah, you are good at that.
But I hadn't thought a lot about spending some dedicated time to doing it with our personal life, which is like, why wouldn't you?
Yeah, it's funny. You do it with work. I don't do it either.
But I do try to. I just remember. I think it was really more when I came. I guess when I I leveled up to being a manager, and so I just realized I was in more control of my time at that point, and it's like, why am I spinning my wheels in places where I have the control to take that back and shift it around, and make it work better for me. So ever since then, it's like I've pretty much every quarter, I would say, I try to look at what I'm doing and what is serving me well and what isn't. And sometimes it kind of stays the same. But a lot of times I try to shift things around because with our boys being young, it feels like constantly we're moving out of one phase and into another.
Yeah.
And even just like coming out of summer just now and going back into school, or like, now we have 2 of the 3 in school. So you're just, or Dylan drops his morning nap. And so now I just have to figure out things, move it around.
Because you have a hybrid role, which is almost primarily working from home. So while it's important for those of us, like, hey, if you hit a punch clock at 8 and a punch clock at 5 on your way in and out, there's still probably things, are you being efficient with that day?
Yeah.
But I think even more so for you, because you're at home, and that's where you found like, hey, I think the struggles most people found when they first started going home is the distractions of being at home, being able to take on household chores and stuff like that while you're working, which is, hey, that's the benefit of doing it. But if you're not checking yourself and seeing, and that's where you found like, hey, I can be efficient doing this, this, and this, and if this isn't efficient for me, I need to change that so that I can maximize both.
Yeah. And I look at because I have a lot of like calls and scheduled meetings, and I try to schedule those for when obviously I have no distractions, like AKA Dylan is being taken care of. But there are times where I find myself constantly missing that one meeting or having to reschedule it. And so it's like, well, just take control of that and move it somewhere else.
Yeah, exactly.
So I try to look at it quarterly. So that's a little about kind of how I use it with work, but I thought it was great that you brought it up, as far as using it in our personal life, because and it's not just us, obviously. We have so many distractions in the world in general, like so many things vying for our time, that, like your CEO said, is super precious and the ultimate resource. And it just can be so easy to get out of alignment with your priorities. And we've talked about this like in our Lent episode about
Yes.
how valuable it can be to make a list. Like literally
Right?
think about it, not just, in passing or like, oh man, I wish I could get a handle on that, but sit down and make a list of what your as is situation is right now. And then what are your goals moving forward and what can change? Do you need to add some things in or drop some things? Um, so I think that it's really good to look at that probably in my case I would say quarterly
Yeah.
because I feel like you're basically moving into like a new season almost
Mm-hmm.
every quarter. Um, and then combine that with, like we said, our boys are growing so fast. They're in such a, I don't know if the word is like pivotal, like everything seems pivotal. Every little there's so many milestones.
Oh yeah, and with the way they're staggered in age,
Mm-hmm.
they're very close. They're all about a year and a half apart from each other,
Mm-hmm.
and so you get one, our oldest, he's moving into a new phase, but the other ones are right back to where he was.
Well, and
Um,
then with him being older and them having an older brother, it's like they move faster
Well, yeah,
from
I think
stage
they
to
obviously went
stage.
faster than him, but so you're not just dealing with one going to one
Mm-hmm.
stage. It's all of them are collectively moving to different stages constantly and trying to keep on top of that. So that's where the challenges I wrote down and thought of with everything is the world moves so much faster now because of technology,
Mm-hmm.
and also what goes along with that is there's way more distractions because of the technology.
Yeah.
So you've got everything moving quicker. You've got
You've got
what
work days
a
lasting
lot longer because
longer.
yeah, there's
You don't
more
get unplugged.
emails or to your
Mm-hmm.
phone. So it's not even people send emails like text messages.
Yeah.
They don't care if it's 9, 10 o'clock at night, and myself included. Sometimes I do it,
Mm-hmm.
and so we're constantly a lot more connected, and that's that's if you're actually being productive. That's not counting in if you're scrolling reels on Instagram or something that I like to do and get in a wormhole for hours
Yeah.
at a time. So you've got all those challenges, and then both of us kind of have non-structured jobs. I mean, there's a work day, but you kind of use it however you need.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was one thing that happened with me is there's days where maybe I'm at home till lunch, and then there's days where I'm leaving early in the morning, but there was no dedicated start time and especially quit time.
Yeah.
I would sometimes stop work at 5, sometimes 6, 7. I mean, and it's same with you. Sometimes
Mm-hmm.
we're like, hey, let's hit pause on work, get the boys to bed, and then go back.
Yeah.
And that just felt like we were spinning our wheels a whole lot of ways. And so I
And
was,
not spending quality time with
well,
the boys
exactly,
because
because you're
it's
still
always
thinking,
distracted. Yeah.
even if you've paused, your head's not where it needs to be. And so that really got me into this guilt complex of primarily the boys. I felt like you and I were still in a good place. We were
Mm-hmm.
still finding time together, but not so much with them. And not that it was bad, but there have been milestones that I feel like I was just breezing through, not maybe appreciating, and
Mm-hmm.
also mainly with our oldest getting he's 5 now, so he's getting to a place where he's asking me about learning guitar, or while it's September right now, it's like I haven't worked with him with baseball at all in a
Mm-hmm.
while, and sometimes he asks about golf and stuff like that. And so there's all these things where it's like, oh yeah, 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 we'll do that, and then very quickly it's like, oh man, it's been like 3 weeks and I haven't done any of that,
Yeah.
or not with any repetitiveness that's going to actually help him.
Mm-hmm.
So it always felt really fake if I was like, hey, let's go like play catch right now. I know we haven't played in like 4 weeks, but let's see if, if you've picked up on it at all. So there was all those things where not only my work day was feeling very jumbled up and not the same day to day, but the home life in turn was doing the exact same thing. So
Yeah.
I was like, you know what? And so that's why I have 3 pages in front of me where I just wrote out everything.
Planned every minute.
Yeah, I had to get those challenges out of the way. And that will kind of like take us back to Labor Day, I think, with those challenges. This like proved my point before we even did it. So we went to the lake, and I think you made the comment to the park ranger when they came by, because spoiler alert, our oldest learned how to ride his bike without training wheels.
Yeah.
Thanks to, I would say, 10% me, probably 90% you, because I was getting frustrated. I was the final push of convincing him to do it, but we would not have gotten there with just me. So hats off to you for the patience with him. But we taught him to ride without training wheels. And so I was sitting there, and Darcy was talking to the park rangers. They came by and were cheering for him. And she was like, yeah, this is the place where we actually taught him to ride with training wheels, to bike by himself, and then now without training wheels. And it was like, you know what? This was both really cool, and then also I was kind of like, oh my gosh, at the same time, because we go to the lake and it kind of does. We're unplugged from work.
Yeah.
Typically
breaks your routine. You're not looking at your yard that needs mowing.
It's well documented. We have a lot of stuff to do at our property, so we're not there. And so anyways, we are naturally more able to focus on the boys. But so while it was cool, and this is why we do those trips, it's why we have the camper, it's why we plan these things. At the same time, I was like, you know what? Like, why aren't we doing stuff like that at home?
Yeah.
And it can be both a positive and a negative at the same time. Like, cool that we did it, cool that we have this tradition to make sure. I think it kind of recenters us.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like, we need to, and look, he learned how to ride a bike. If we don't practice with him at home, and we have a concrete driveway, we kept telling him, like, neither one of us had concrete driveways growing up.
We always wanted concrete.
Yeah. Technically, when I was his age, I did, because I was in Houston at that age. But after that, I didn't, and you didn't. And so I was like, you know, we have this great circle driveway, all paved. And anyways, if we don't have it structured in there of like, hey, spending time making sure he still knows how to ride his bike, then the next time we go to the lake, we're going to be starting.
It's just all about the presence of mind and the being present with them, I think is what we're trying to get at. It, as we were preparing for this, it made me think of the story of Martha and Mary in the Bible.
Yeah.
It's in Luke. I should have probably pulled that up, but it's where Jesus is coming to visit them, and I think it's Martha that takes on the hosting role, and she's like cleaning up, you know, and fixing food for them and making sure everybody's taken care of, and Mary is just sitting at Jesus' feet the whole time. And so finally at one point, you know, Martha tells Jesus, tell my sister to come help me. She's making me do this all by myself. And he tells her, hey, she's got her priorities straight here. You don't. And what strikes me about that story is what Martha was doing was perfectly fine.
Yeah,
and,
she was hosting.
A good thing, you know. But her priorities were out of whack. And like what Brian and I are doing with work, obviously, is supporting a lot of what we do as a family. So it's good stuff. But without your priorities, kind of regularly evaluating them and making sure that you're in alignment, obviously it can get out of whack pretty quickly.
You were right, and just because I found it, I'll go ahead and read it. It's Luke 10, and I believe we would say it starts verse 38. So it's, now it happened that while they were traveling, he entered into a certain town, and a certain woman named Martha received him into her home. And she had a sister named Mary, who, while sitting beside the Lord's feet, was listening to his word. Now Martha was continually busying herself with serving, and she stood still and said, Lord, is it not a concern to you that my sister has left me to serve alone? Therefore, speak to her so that she may help me. And the Lord responded by saying to her, Martha, Martha, you are anxious and troubled over many things, and yet only one thing is necessary. Mary has chosen the best portion, and it shall not be taken away from her. So you actually summarized that really well. But I do think that was kind of where I felt like that with the boys at home. Like, work's important and our home's important. A lot of the things I'm doing, they're not bad. It's just like hosting and stuff like that. But am I focusing on, to me, the time with you and the boys is not the only thing, but it's some of the most important things in our lives right now. And am I doing a good enough time at making sure that's in my schedule?
Yeah. And one disclaimer that I wanted to say too, is, you know, we're talking about like we're wanting to increase our really focused, intentional time with the boys. And I think that's always a good thing. But I forget who was telling me, and it may have even been something that Callie Beal said on one of our previous episodes on
Mm.
summer ideas about like boredom is fine too.
Oh yeah,
And
yeah,
so the
that
point,
was it.
kind of the disclaimer that I wanted to make is like, you know, we're trying to incorporate more uninterrupted time, but it also doesn't mean that that time where we are bringing the boys along with us because we're, picking up sticks and limbs and stuff isn't also valuable.
Oh yeah.
That's all good too. It's good for them. That's all part of their like fundamental childhood as well, and
No,
I think that's all valuable too.
exactly. I do think
Um,
millennials
we
do a terrible job almost of like we put our kids maybe too much on a
Well, it's
pedestal.
like if you're not sitting in the floor with
Yeah.
them, then you're not, giving them a good
Yeah, and
childhood. And I
social
don't think
media
that's true.
has done a lot of that. And
Yeah.
and as you'll see from mine, it's not when I say they're the most important part of my life, they are, but they're not like taking up my entire schedule.
Yeah.
I more so just wanted to make sure like, do I have any dedicated time
Yes.
just to them?
Yeah. Yeah. So there's my disclaimer. Let's get into it now.
So you didn't make like a schedule at all? Did you want
No, I looked over at Brian as I was making notes, and he's literally mapped out every minute of his awake time.
Yes. Now, well,
Which is purposeful. No, that's
because
good.
of the way I plan on doing this exercise, and maybe afterwards this will change a little bit. But so I guess I'll go first since I actually wrote it out, and then you can play off mine.
Yes.
So I wrote out my whole week, and the Monday through Friday aspect of it really shouldn't change very much. That should be pretty stable because we have a relatively stable day.
Yeah.
The weekend I did write out, but the reason I wrote that out is there's weekends where maybe we have things to do or we're doing a trip, stuff like that. But we also have a lot of weekends where, hey, we are home and we don't have anything on the agenda. And those are the ones that get like the most frustrating to me because a lot of times, sometimes we're productive, but even at the end of it, I usually have one moment where I'm like, ugh,
Yeah.
I just let this half day get away from me and now I'm playing catch up. So,
Mhm.
my weekend is more just like, if we're home, obviously there's going to be things that pop up, but
Yeah,
I just
just
wanted
good
to make
things to
sure
keep in
I
mind.
have time. So,
Right.
the biggest thing, I'm not going to bore everyone with my entire schedule, but, the big changes that I wanted to map out, and I wrote everything from wake up, when I go to work, when I'm driving and stuff, because I drive a lot for work. Like I
Yeah, it's a
drive
regular part of
on
your day.
average. It's because we commute, but probably at least
I would say 4 hours.
it's
of
over
your
1,000 miles a week.
Yeah.
No,
No, I don't think that's right, Matt.
it's over 800 miles a week
Yeah.
because it's not quite 1,000. So anyway, I drive a lot. That's the point. And if my mother's listening, I spend a lot of time talking to her or to you,
Yeah.
which is great, and that needs to be factored in. But it's not always the best use of my time. So that was like a big thing for me. Was I looked at on an average workday, I probably drive at a minimum 2, if not 3 hours, probably on average, and probably closer to 3 most of the
I
time.
was going to say, yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely 3.
Kidding
if not
yourself
4.
if you think it's 2.
Yeah,
You can't even
no.
get there and back.
Yeah, no, sometimes it's more 3 to 4. So anyways, I do a lot of listening to podcasts or talking on the phone, but not necessarily making work calls. And there's a reason for that. I hate talking on the phone and not being able to write stuff down, worried that I'll forget. So I was like, you know what? I need to make a list of calls that can be made
Yes.
during that time to help my productivity. So that way, one of the big things is I'll get back here at the end of the day. And then I'm telling Darcy, like, hey, I'm going to be in my office for a long time playing catch up because I drove all day. And
Yeah,
did
and I'm like,
nothing while I did it.
can y'all just pause for a second and imagine the look that I give him when
Yeah.
he says that?
Hey, you got this, right? Because I got a lot to do, even though I've been gone all day. So the hope here is by mapping some of that stuff into my work day, that will help alleviate some of that time when I
And
get
in
home.
all reality, you're not going to cut me or your mom off as far as talking to us
just
because
need
that
to
won't be
maybe-
acceptable.
Just
But
maybe
you
limit
just,
some of the days.
yeah,
But another thing that I added in is a dedicated alarm going off time, which all of us have, but how many of us are hitting snooze? And I am a creature of habit. While I live and thrive in an unstructured world, I really crave it. So I'm hoping and this might work out for some of you out there. Like example, I don't think it has to happen for you. I think you and I are different. But for me, writing this down makes it a whole lot more likely to be instituted, implemented. So do what you want with this. I chose to write everything down. To Darcy was making fun of me within like 10-minute increments in some cases. But so when I wake up, I want to dedicate the first 10 minutes I'm awake to the Lord's time, which, going back to like our Lenten episode when you rank things, I had God lower on the list, and this is where like just still staying in tradition of that, how can I move up? Like the first thing I do, even if it's only 10 minutes, because that's all I have, is that 10 minutes, I'm going to, whether it's reading the Bible, praying, I don't really care or know what I'm going to do yet, but I want those first 10 minutes to be dedicated to that.
Yes.
Get me on a good path
start.
starting the day. So I had, that was a new thing I'd written out besides making the phone list. And then while I said I wanted to work on this, it's not like it's taking up a huge part of my day. I want 1 hour in the evening that I have dedicated to the boys every week. And we kind of toyed with this last week.
Every day.
Yeah, every day, Monday through Friday.
Yeah.
And in that hour, we kind of messed with it a little bit. Like I said, they're wanting to, we have them these 3-string guitars that I actually finally messed with. I think they got them around Christmas. And now it's September and I'm finally fooling with it, which they're just finally starting to take a little more interest in it. But I kind of started messing with that. And our oldest, he's following along. So I taught him a couple chords last week. And I'm hoping to kind of progress towards some of the songs he likes singing. So that's probably going to be a big thing that I do in that hour during the week is guitar, or he's learning how to read. That's where we're hitting all these milestones right now. So Darcy's been doing a good job like reading with him at night. And
yeah, that's been really fun.
Yeah.
And at school he's been bringing home like a library book.
Yeah, now he's going to the library.
So it's like a whole thing now. That's where I told Brian, I'm derailing for a second.
No,
but
it's cool.
This past weekend at like Labor Day with him learning how to ride his bike, and then we also taught him how to play Go Fish.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah,
he the first game was pretty rough.
Yeah. And backstory: Darcy's super competitive, and I just beat her in a card game before that, so she was ready to just throttle June. No prisoners.
Yeah. Well, and also Clyde was sitting there, so that was a distraction. But then later I got someone on one time with him, and he did actually pick it up. And so we played a couple games of Go Fish, and he's been asking me ever since. And so I told Brian, I was like, man, just all of a sudden I feel like we are just in a completely different phase of parenting.
And those are good. Like,
no,
so
it is good.
During the week, the time slot that I have with the boys is, look, we're very likely not going to be outside with them doing stuff, and that's fine. But there are things where it's like, just how much we're good with the no tablets, no phones stuff with them, but my goodness. And not that there's anything wrong with it, but there's a lot of days where I'm like, y'all want to watch Bluey? Let's just watch Bluey. If you want to watch Toy Story or something, I'm good with that. And then I'm on the phone. So it's like there can absolutely be days where they do that because they want to do that.
Yeah.
But there's also things when we start showing them stuff, like June has started liking his guitar. He's got this, he wants to be able to get up on stage with me and play and sing. And so that's cool. Like that.
We've always
and
read,
now the cards, like he wants to play cards and stuff.
I love playing
and so
cards.
there's things,
I'd love to teach him.
we're probably not far away from doing like a Candyland or something like that,
Yeah, games.
But like if we don't have that time kind of carved out, then those things just like blow by the wayside. So that's where I just came up with like that hour right there of like dedicated. We're not on phones. Maybe one day we're using TV, but if we're not, we're at least thinking of doing something because they're not going to want to do the same stuff every day.
Yeah. And that will be, that kind of ties into some of the changes that I said I wanted to make is, one of them is that, with my day being kind of unstructured and working remotely and kind of hybrid and everything, I pick up the boys and it's hard for me after that because it's not like I've clocked out, but I do have a lot more distractions than I've had previously in the day. And so I think what happens to me is I'm trying to get through to bedtime so that I can check and make sure I haven't missed anything and that
Right.
all my loose ends are tied up, whether it's with work or even with the house and things, that I kind of like rush through that, or I'm at least very distracted through it.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing that I would like to do better is be more present during that I'm saying bedtime, but like dinner time, bedtime,
Right.
because I know I'm going to have an opportunity to go back and look and make sure that I tied up all those loose ends. And in all reality, I do take care of things really pretty much as they come. So it's like give myself a little grace, but also be able to sit and have a meal with them. And like we said, we've always read pretty regularly for bedtime.
Yeah.
There's been phases where we get into more of a TV thing, but now with June learning to read, that has been really fun for me. So I'm like, I want to be very present for that and not be worrying about work. I will have an opportunity to check that when their bedtime is over.
And so speaking of that, that was another thing I have on here. So especially now that he likes the books, he's always been a bigger challenge on his bedtime routine, which sometimes can stretch into the 20, maybe 30-minute range of like, hey, we're going to bed. And that's where hopefully, again, we started some of this a little early. Like you got, what is that new thing?
So we had a Hatch sound machine, but I got the newer version that you can set a schedule with.
That's what it is. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I'm working with them on that.
It like changes colors.
It changes color. You can set like, okay, this is our wind down time, and so I can turn that on, and that's our reading time. And then they know when it changes colors, it's time to get into bed. And just, I think some of these things that we can visually show them and not have to tell them over and over, it takes some of the pressure off of us.
Well, our middle child, he's getting it a lot more. And
that was the other goal of it. Yeah.
The bigger goal was he gets up early.
Yeah, he gets up early, too early, really. And he comes in our room before we're really ready for him. And so this was also a way of saying, like, no, you stay in your bed until it has turned this time. And we give him the scenarios like, if you're sick or have a bad dream, of course you can come get us. But otherwise, this is the structure. And he's taken to it pretty well so far.
I know. It's the older one is struggling a little more.
But the whole point is trying to kind of take control of that and take that bedtime back a little bit.
And hopefully, because honestly, it doesn't fit my schedule anymore. I've got, and so it's going to be a work in progress. But listen, I'll share this with them. I'll let them know how long I have. But that's it. I mean, I got to keep to this, guys. It's for the podcast now.
It's laughable.
No, it'll be a work in progress, but that was one of the goals on here is like, look, I like our nighttime routine, and I know maybe it's longer than some people do, but I don't mind all of that. We sing songs. That's the reason my kids can get up on stage and sing songs is because we sing songs with them at night.
Yeah.
And they memorize them. So I love doing that. I don't want to stop doing that. I'm going to grieve that when they don't want to do it anymore.
Oh, yeah. I know.
And so I try to focus on when it's taking a long time of like, man, you will miss this.
Yes.
But all of that said.
When I'm in there singing Smoky Mountain Rain at like a really fast clip.
Yeah, I know. Which sometimes I'm real bad about that. I skip parts. And then when they do sing, they're like, this isn't how it goes. And it's like, well, Daddy sped it up at night. But anywho, I do like doing that stuff, but I just want to make it more effective and effective for them too. They need a more regimented sleep schedule as well, same as us.
No, they need a lot of sleep still at this age. And that goes into my second thing that I'm changing is I need a little earlier bedtime.
Yeah, well, no, that was one of the big I have on mine, I have 7 hours of sleep, by the way, which that I read this thing that
you can train your body to get the most
it's
out
all
of your sleep.
It's your what are they? I'm going to say this wrong. Is it circadian cycle?
Circadian rhythm,
something like that. It's like that bug. I don't know if that's where I'm getting it. Someone out there knows what I'm talking about. But anyways, and this happens to me a lot. Depending on your body, naturally acclimates to your routine, and so when you don't have one, your body's just flying by the wayside too. But that's where like you can get more sleep than you've ever gotten. You wake up and you feel more tired, and it's because we have those deep sleep versus light sleep rhythms. All these
Yes.
smartwatches tell you what you're in. Well, your body's naturally trying to figure out what works best for you.
Yes.
So this is going to no doubt be a challenge for us at first. But if we can lock out our natural body's rhythm a little better, that's where you can wake up feeling refreshed, whether you've slept for 5, 6, 7, 8.
Would you like me to verify what you said?
Probably
with
not,
circadian
but
rhythm? No, it is. You can look it up. You're right. Circadian rhythm. So
what
there's
was
like
I?
a.
Was I what?
You were correct. Yes. I didn't doubt you. I said, yes, I think that's it.
Your face didn't.
That's not true. I just don't like being wrong on air. So then I got nervous.
You just got to I'm usually right. Everyone knows that.
Oh, yeah, I know. It's annoying. So then there's this sleep theory. So it says the circadian rhythm controls the cyclical secretion of several hormones, including melatonin, that are involved in sleep. The second process is the recuperative function, illustrated by the accumulation of hypnogenic substances in your
that
body.
starts getting into all the science. The point is, if the first part was right, then the second part is right too.
Yeah.
So your body is naturally guessing based off of when you normally go to sleep. You develop this cycle, and I think everyone's is different. I mean, we can all have the same one if we follow the same schedule, but I go to bed later than you.
Yeah.
Which can be fine. Some of us need more sleep than others
Right.
based off of that natural rhythm of our body. But when we wake up and when we go to sleep is actually super important.
Yes.
And it's not just for like digestive system or anything like that. It's your sleep cycle. Excuse me. So if you get that honed in, if we start going to bed at the same time
Yeah.
and waking up at the same time, our body's going to get in that
Yeah.
flow. Like that's why everyone will
You're
set,
preaching to
like,
the choir, by the way. Like,
Oh, I know,
you
but-
tell yourself that.
Well, I am. Trust me. I'm going to listen to this episode. I don't always, but I'm going to go back. So the thing is, everyone makes like these New Year's resolutions or whatever. Like, hey, I'm going to wake up early and start working out. And then you can't get up. And it's because that's breaking your cycle. Your body's
Yeah.
not ready for you to get up. You just have to fight through that. A
Make
couple
it-
of times and your body will adjust. That's the thing.
Yes.
Like, even if you don't wake up and be like, oh, this is what I do. This is not the right time. I gotta adjust this. No, you just gotta give your body some time to adjust, and
Yes.
you'll actually do a lot better with it.
Yeah. But I also do better when I am getting enough sleep.
Yeah, you're pretty heavy on the needing.
Yeah.
You need a true 8 hours, I think.
Yeah, maybe so. But so I put earlier bedtime, and I've been kind of doing this, so I'm going to
So
reinforce
ambiguous.
it.
Earlier? What does that mean?
Huh?
What time do you go to bed?
Oh, I don't know. That's the thing, is I don't have a strict, but I do go to bed earlier than you typically.
Okay.
But I have been in the last couple of weeks. I've been doing the Bible in a year plan.
Yeah, where did you
Routine.
get that? Because that thing, sidebar, that thing's really cool.
So
It's got tabs and everything.
yeah. So Ascension Press is the one that I think technically has the Bible in a year plan, but then Father Mike Schmitz has a podcast with it, and he does all the readings and everything, and then commentary.
So that's
And
like
he's-
Hallow app?
Yeah, and then he's working with Jeff Cavins, who I think is actually technically maybe author or co-author of the reading plan, but obviously a Bible scholar. Anyways, it's been really good, and I've enjoyed it, but I was moving my reading times throughout the day, trying to figure out a good
spot.
and so finally I think I'm going to do that before bed.
Yeah, your happy place is when I'm playing PlayStation.
Yeah, that's what we've been doing. Is Brian plays probably an inning or two of baseball, and
However
I
long it
read
takes. I
my-
like it when it's a long Bible verse because I get a little bit longer to play before I
Long
get
reading.
bad looks.
yeah. So I've been doing that at night, and I think I'm going to continue to do that because that's working out pretty well. I'm keeping up with it a little more regularly, and then finally for mine, because like I said, I didn't map mine out quite like yours, but I did make some bullet points. That's who
Ooh.
I am. I'm a bullet point person. And so the extracurriculars that I want to work in more time for is mainly around our horses. So like working with
Yeah,
Thor,
I totally
our
forgot
young.
about that's the
Yeah.
embarrassing thing about mine. I don't even have that on there.
Well, yeah, and you were the one that brought it up the other day
Oh,
about
I know.
wanting to
That's
have
what
more
I'm
time with
saying.
them. So I need to spend more time working with Thor. He's young and very impressionable. This is a good time to work with him more, get him used to a lot of things, desensitize him a little bit, and then working with Jilly, our pony, because the boys they were obsessed when I brought her up the other day.
Well, and our youngest, we've
Yeah.
recently, like, he's always
He is
been
an
like this,
animal
but
lover.
my goodness, is he an animal
So
lover?
just picture this: we've got this little pony, and I don't think he's ever been on the same side of the fence with
No,
her.
I don't
Really,
think he
like he's
has. Not
only
unless we
really
were
pet
holding
her.
him.
Yeah, he's only really ever pet her like through the fence and stuff. And so I'd opened up the gate; they were all three in there, and he just walks straight to her and hugs her around the chest. Like he's never. He just walked up and was like, just gave her a big old hug, and I was like, "Oh my goodness!" So they loved it, and I had been in a good routine of working out, working with her, and June was riding her a little bit, and then we got out of that mainly because of the heat of the summer, and
Well,
that's the
heat of
thing.
the summer, and then we had the derecho, the hurricane,
Yes.
and then I mean, this was the
Oh,
wettest
yeah.
summer I've ever lived
Well,
through,
yeah,
I think.
and
So and compound that with things started growing like crazy because we're like, everything's supposed to
yeah.
be dead right now, and it's all green, and I can't
Keep up
cut
with
it
it.
fast
Yeah,
enough.
no, I know. And that's where, like, with this framework that we're looking at this through, it's like you've got to look at what your goals are.
Yes.
Or I guess you got to first look at what your as is, and then what your goals are. That's what as
I
is
know.
like a
It's
phrase.
just funny.
Hush. And then look at what your goals are, and then look at what season is upcoming.
Yes.
Because like one thing that I thought about in looking at this is like we've got a really busy season ahead, and with lots of things to do on the weekends and weeknights, like lots
Yeah.
of activities and other extracurriculars.
Exactly.
So the bar has to be pretty low as far as additional things that
yeah,
we're
for
gonna
sure.
tack on. But you just gotta keep that in mind. So I think that. Oh, and then I also put organizing house flow, which I've already been working on a little bit. Once we got through summer, I was just like, okay, let's get the boys back in school, and I
Yeah.
got to get rid of a lot of these toys. We've got to declutter.
Yeah, we're still. It's an ongoing, everyday process.
Yeah.
But no,
But
we've
those
been
are the
working on
things.
that.
Yeah.
And so some of the things I think are going to help us are I have our meal times earlier, which we've kind of been going back and forth. I primarily cook just because I like doing it,
Mhm.
and you're usually handling the boys, which is fine. But that's going to require me getting in the house earlier.
Yep.
And I think also one of the things I need to add into my weekend was,
Oh, no. Do you have time?
yeah. Well, I can do it during relaxed time, but we need to map out our meals a lot better. I think that'll save us maybe
We
a
do
couple
that
bucks
sporadically, and it is
no,
helpful.
I know, but it's also like can we meal prep on Sunday or something
Yeah.
like that to have
Well,
certain things cooked to where we can put it together
Yeah.
quicker, and that's going to help with our healthy eating stuff too. But that'll just get us more efficiently into the dinner time stuff because it's like one thing I think if you're trying to do this at home is map out like what are the things that trip me up
Yeah.
and try to figure out how to make those more efficient. Like I said, this is going to be a process thing, but our boys' bedtime, you can write on here like, oh, it shouldn't take but 10 minutes to put them to bed. Nope. A lot of times it's like 20, if not 30. So
Yeah.
you got to be realistic about that and figure out how am I going to overcome that hurdle. Like you and we can say we're going to eat dinner earlier, and as long as the boys are eating something quick and you've put it together, maybe that happens. But a lot of times that works Monday, Tuesday, and then by Wednesday it's like, well, okay, I'll throw this together, and it takes an hour, and we're eating at 8:30. So, trying to figure out what trips you up and where can you fix
Plan
that in
for
your
that,
schedule. Exactly.
Yeah, well, and some things you may need to take out. Like this is random, but one thing that I wanted to work on deleting, if you will, is workday scrolling. And I don't even get in a bunch of wormholes. Like I don't scroll for long. I don't feel like, but it is natural right now for me to open up my phone and then I go straight to the social medias real quick. And then I'm like, okay, nothing happening here. If I just deleted that time and said, look, it's workday still, I'm not even going to open those apps at all, it would save me a little.
Oh God,
effort.
yeah, I'm so into the reels right now on Instagram. I'm tempted to just delete it totally because, but man, they're interesting and they're fun.
Hey, but then you wouldn't be able to follow our page, so.
Yeah, exactly. might be one less follower for us. I gotta keep it up for that. Maybe I just delete the app on my phone. Just have it. All right. On that, let's just wrap it up now.
Yeah.
Wait, no, I forgot one thing.
Oh.
Look at me. So I think what I want to do personally with us on this is Darcy needs to write one out more like me. No, seriously, we do need to kind of write one out. Yeah. That way we can figure out where we're on the same page. Because, look, I didn't have horses and stuff on there, and that needs to be on mine. So mine's already, this is worthless now. So I got to start over. But we need to get one that works for both of us. Yes, in alignment. And then I think we're going to try this for 1 to 2 weeks and see how it works. We may give you like a quick recap in the beginning of one episode, see where we're at, because no doubt there's going to be things that need to change on there. And then the idea is kind of how Darcy said she does it with work. I think for us quarterly, so like every 3 months, kind of look at this, because it is going to change. Yeah. Right now, there's a whole bunch going on with the boys, but guess what? In the spring, we're going to have baseball and stuff again.
×2. I don't even know what we're going to do.
I know, exactly. That's why we have to figure this out now. But seriously, things are going to change. We may have, and hopefully we have some of our house projects getting done, which will undoubtedly lead to others, but maybe they won't be as time consuming. Right. But different seasons, different stations of life. And I even think, if your kids are out of the house or they're at an adolescent age where they're not demanding as much of your time, well, you may have holes in your schedule that what do you need to fill them with? Well,
where you're saying, let's do the first 10 minutes of, prayer time of your day. Yeah. If you've got bigger holes in your schedule now, like, you're empty nesters now or whatever it may be, or just your job has changed where you've got different pockets of time. Maybe now you're taking that and you're scheduling an hour of adoration or something.
Yeah. And even if it's like hobbies or something you want to pick up, like if there's things like all of us find, like I don't have time, like I don't have time to practice guitar at all like I used to. And judging my schedule, it doesn't look like that's in my future right now. But at some point, maybe I'll work that or golf or something back in. But this gives you like a realistic look of like, this is what I can handle.
Yes. Well, and that's why you got to reevaluate in a few months.
So anyways, that's what we're going to do. And we'll keep y'all up to date with how we fail or succeed at this.
I'm sure we'll succeed, right?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Okay. So next week.
Oh, yeah. So now we'll be back on what your regularly scheduled program was. What was that supposed to be?
Well, I'm thinking our next one will probably be on the power of prayer.
I hate it when you say these out loud because then we have to do it.
No, that's why I said I'm thinking. We are still the masters of this, so we can determine. But that's what's on the schedule right now.
Power of prayer. Stay tuned. Yeah. So I hope you all had a pleasant time off, but I hope you've been just pining for new episode to come out. Yeah, so I hope this was just like, oh my God, they're back.
Yes. We're happy to be back.
Yes. If you had that feeling, I hope you, what's our handle? Discuss
_ with us.
Yes. Like, share, promote the page, tell your friends. They all need this.
Yeah.
But no, I hope you guys are enjoying it. If kind of what we did with that poll, we're still going to use some of those that maybe didn't get.
Oh, the listener's choice topics.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. I worked a lot of those into.
Well, I know, but even some of the ones that didn't win, like those were good. If there's ever anything you want us to talk about, think about, send it to us. Send a direct message, post on there. We will do it. Trust me, we don't have all the ideas. So, anyways, that'll be coming at you next week. And to summarize, we have just unpacked time management,
doing more with less.
Yes. So as we have unpacked that, you go discuss.